Welcome to another episode of Business
Business
Bros. I always love the delay, but someday we're going to get it right over the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, Hernan Cias here, host of the Business Bros podcast, where we're helping you take control of your branding, your marketing, and helping you create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow. I'm here with my co-host,
the insurance bro, James Cias, with Pipeline Insurance, where we empower licensed professionals to effectively add insurance to their existing businesses. And let me tell you all, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, what day is it, Non?
It's so happy. It's Thursday. S-H-I-T, baby.
And on this so happy it's Thursday, today's guest is a Matavation machine. No matter the circumstances that you may be facing now, this guest is sure to show you that you are a product of your own mental fortitude and drive. Our incredible guest today won the World Championship in the Purple Belt Master Lightweight Division at the 2016 World Jiu-Jitsu Championship in Long Beach. Boy, you think that's impressive? You ain't seen nothing yet. Pun intended, because this rock star of a guest won that championship despite losing his sight 11 years ago. He may have lost his sight, but he gained his vision, and we're so excited and honored to have him here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a special welcome to this guest today, and get ready for that Matavation. Joining us from Matavation and Haabu Incorporated, please welcome to the show a blind athlete, jiu-jitsu champ, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur, Jeff Gordon Mata.
Wow, that was an awesome intro, man. I gotta give it to you. That was crazy.
Dude.
This is what I had to work with in the 5 seconds or 5 minutes that I had. You said it. You put me to the challenge. You said that true leaders work under pressure, and I was like, all right, I gotta put this together real fast and impress him.
You must have gotten an A in creative writing, James.
If I'd have done my homework, I would have.
Right.
So instead, he married a creative writer.
Well, there you go. That'll work.
All right, Jeff. I am anxious to, of course, man. I'm anxious to hear your story, dude. I mean, the intro itself is very inspiring, but I kind of want to go back to when you had sight and that feeling that you had when you first, lost it. Can you take me back to then?
Yeah. So obviously I wasn't born blind. That's always a question. I lost my sight when I was 26 years old. And from the point of birth to that time, I did pretty much what most kids did growing up here in San Diego did. I actually grew up in a city called Poway, which is a little north of Mission Valley, and did a bunch of different things from skateboarding to surfing, and wrestling and boxing were some of the most favorite things I loved doing as a kid. And growing up, I wasn't that top tier athlete. I really need to work. Really need to work on getting my competition levels up, but I became a top tier athlete from the work that I was doing. And that actually translated into my actual work ethic and business. And just to fast forward, because anyone could talk about themselves forever, but right before I lost my eyesight, I was selling residential real estate and mortgages, doing really well. This was before the 2008 crash. I was training as an amateur fighter, doing boxing after high school, and was really trying to rise up in the ranks and make something of myself. Because I always told myself that, you know what, Jeff, you're gonna be somebody in the future. You're gonna do big things, and I'm sure everyone has that vision or that goal. But I really believed that it was gonna happen, and I went into kind of a different transition because from the boxing training that I was doing and an inflammation called uveitis, I got a retinal detachment in my left eye, and my right eye followed after. But this is the thing, that retinal detachment in my left eye, it was able to be fixed the first time. So they reattached it I was good to go. And I still kept on fighting. I still kept on training. And my doctor even told me that I may have total blindness in the future if I kept up with the lifestyle, with the training that I was doing at the time.
And you did it despite that advice. You loved
Exactly.
it that much.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're young, you're dumb, you're full of fun, right? And you just wanted to get to that professional level. You know, regardless if you made it or not, you wanted to really push and try to make it. And I really believed in myself, and I kept on training, and it happened again. And I can tell you, when your retina gets detached after you get it fixed the first time, us as human beings, and we want to stay in control of things, we think that, oh, okay, well, they're going to be able to fix it again.
It's like a plugging in a socket or something, right? You're just going to plug
Exactly.
it back in. You'll be good.
You'll be good, right? And the thing is no, that wasn't the case, because there was so much scar tissue, it was pulling the retina back off. And regardless of putting that retina back on the back of your eye so that you can get that vision back, because my eye was so damaged, it wasn't going to be feasible. So I went to a couple different doctors and specialists that were these world renowned retina specialists, and all of them said, no, your retina is too damaged, and if you do anything else, if the research and development in the future comes up with some sort of technology, you may damage your optic nerve so much that you won't even be a candidate for that. So I wasn't able to get into another surgery.
That's
And
kind of a double-edged diagnosis there. On the one hand, they're saying, right now, we can't plug it back in. We can't give you your sight back, but we're not even going to try because there's hope that in the future, you might be able to see again.
right. But this is the thing, though. Obviously, there is advanced technology, and you hear about that all over the world, of stem cell research and implants for corneas and this and that. But my doctor, when I got the news and he said that there just weren't any surgeries to be able to fix my sight and that I wasn't going to be able to see again, that really took a blow to my confidence, to my ego, to my identity. And if you think about it, again, let me preface it. So I was super successful in real estate. I purchased my first house when I was 21 years old. And when you're 21, you don't really know the value of money, you know?
No.
And I had, you know, the fancy suits and the fancy bikes and cars and all that stuff, and that super fast lifestyle that we dream about. And all of a sudden it's taken away. It's taken away everything that you've worked for, everything that you've attained, all those achievements. It was nothing, because what do I have to show for once that blindness hit and my sense of independence was stripped away from me?
Now, there's a lot of people who, in that same situation, would just break down. Their life would be completely over. So, you know, this is, I mean, the way you're talking right now sounds like somebody who is completely defeated at this point. What is inside you? What is it that took you to the next level where you can continue to even think about competing, and much less compete at a high level?
Well, you made a super good point. Like, someone would be defeated, and that's exactly what I was. I was defeated. I fell into deep depression, which anyone in my situation could tell you. You're going to get depressed. You're going to go through these different struggles and these obstacles and challenges that you didn't necessarily think that you would ever have to face in your life. So it wasn't an easy transition. I mean, I'm speaking to you right now, and you can hear the liveliness and life in my voice. But on April 18, 2008, when that happened and my world was crushed, I was nothing. I didn't even want to live. I wanted to give up on life itself. And I'm sure there are different obstacles that people do face. And hey, everybody, regardless of how tough you are, how wealthy you are, your social status, there are times that you're going to want to give up. I mean, I still, you still go through different challenges in life that you just want to give up. You get discouraged, and that's just life.
That's true. That is life. You're 100% correct. But most people deal with issues like I lost my job.
Right.
I don't have money to pay this particular bill. There are things
I
that they
spent
can
all my money on toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly. There are things that we can overcome relatively quickly. Yours is very debilitating. So, most people would say you have an excuse to kind of give up and to become dependent on everybody else. Like it's okay. Like, maybe, you shouldn't have been boxing. They might tell you that. Right. But the fact that you're in the situation, like it's okay, but you didn't take that as the advice.
No, I didn't take that as advice. I mean, I was very assertive. I was very confident. I guess that's a good way of getting into the place that I was in. But I also believe that as a competitor my whole life and as an athlete, I believe that that transition was, I would say, not easier, I guess a little bit more manageable to do that transition from being able to see 26 years of your life and then becoming this blind individual that didn't know what the next steps were.
So tell me about those next steps. Like, how do you start to, for me, it's things like even walking from one spot to another, to walking in public, to, everything that you normally would do that people take for granted. You have to relearn all that.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to relearn it. The good thing about it is we have different resources here, especially here in the United States. I mean, I've met different visually impaired and blind athletes and individuals from other countries, and the resources aren't that great. So fortunately for me, I got clicked up with the San Diego Center for the Blind and another in-home, or actually a live-in program up in Los Angeles called the Davidson program. And that's where I was actually able to transition and learn how to function with this new lifestyle or this new way of living, not being able to see. And when I went to these different programs, I learned how to read Braille. I learned how to use my white cane. That's the cane that you see these blind guys using to orient themselves and walk around town or wherever they need to go. I also learned how to live alone, independent. They call it independent living skills, which is just cooking, baking, ironing, just your regular day-to-day tasks, and then using what we call assistive technology, which is actually how I'm zooming in with you guys, being able to use a laptop that I can't see through a software program that is a screen reader that tells me what's on the screen. And then there's various different, I guess, hotkeys and keystrokes to be able to navigate through it. So those were the four main elements of it. And then obviously you have to put in the work for it to work. And it was hard. It was tough because number one, I was super embarrassed that I couldn't see. You kind of get put in the shell, and then you start to push people away. And that's the funny thing that we do as human beings. We feel so alone, right? Yet we push away all of our close ones and loved ones and family away to isolate ourselves
In a time that you actually need them the most.
Exactly, in a time that we need them the most. And for me, I had such a fantastic support system. My circle of influence, my friends, my family, they're super supportive, but at the same time, they gave me the time to cope with things, to be able to process everything, the grieving process. And it was literally a series of processes to get to where I was at. And I can tell you, it was a long hill to climb. And I'm still climbing it till this day. It's just getting a little bit easier and easier each day that I wake up.
So how do you go from learning to orient yourself to competing in winning championships
Mhm.
in a sport that normally you'd have to be able to see to
Right.
compete in?
That's really a good question. So when I went to the Davidson Academy up in LA, they knew that I was a wrestler and I was a boxer, and one of the teachers was a judo practitioner. And they said, "Hey, you know that judo is a Paralympic sport, and you don't need your sight to be able to get on the mats and perform and train in judo." And it just kind of stuck in my head. I didn't really take any application, or I didn't take any action to do anything just yet. It was literally a few years later, after I graduated from that program and I was going back to school. I went back to college to get my degree, but there was something inside of me that was tugging me to get into some sort of physical fitness or some activity, because I got to tell you, when you're depressed, you gain a lot of weight.
You
I
find
mean,
time to eat things, right?
it's time to eat everything. I mean, I think I almost ate my fist because I couldn't see it. But I mean, I was at the heaviest that I was ever in my entire life. Where I was actually talking to a friend the other day, and I said I couldn't even tie my shoes. I literally had to hold my breath, put on my socks, laying down, and throw one shoe on and catch my breath and throw the other one on. And it was just horrible. I felt so bad about myself. Again, the self-confidence level. I mean, you had this guy that was this star wrestler in high school, this boxer that was trying to rise up in the ranks and stuff like that, and an athlete throughout his life, and he can't even put on his damn shoes. It's freaking, it's crazy. You know what I mean? Just to think that.
Well,
So
but think of it like this too. I mean, when I talk to people and you ask them about, what are some of your favorite moments in your life, their prime, right? They
right,
often go backwards to, those days in high school. And yet when we read all your accolades right now, your prime is after the most
right,
devastating thing in your life.
yeah.
How does that happen?
It's so, honestly, it was a blessing in disguise. I honestly believe that this was just God's way of saying, you know what, I got something better for you, and you're going to be exceptional at this because you have a special um, I guess message to share with others. And all of a sudden, like I said, all these accolades, all these achievements and awards just started to flood in. And it wasn't just on the athletic side. I was also receiving it on the academic side when I was going to school. And I would have never thought that I'd ever go back to school. So I always tell people my blindness, it was a blessing in disguise, because I'm literally doing 1,000 things more than I would have had I had sight.
You think you seem to be a very determined person prior to that. I mean, you had the commitment that you had to your athletics. You don't become successful at real estate by just flaunting it around. It's a commitment to do the prospecting that you need to do the blocking out the time to learn your contracts, all that different stuff that goes into that particular business. Like those things, you were always committed, but now you're saying you're like 1,000 times more focused, I guess I can even say, without vision.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what is going on, because what's happening is I feel that, again, not even being able to see, let's just take that out of the picture, but just being focused, it's such a great I guess angle that you can have, because I'm looking at the world in a different lens. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about it is, yeah, I was grinding in real estate. It was hard. It was tough, but I love the work, and I would train early in the morning. But again, that was just two different things, right? And now that I'm blind, I'm doing, like I said, I can literally count 1,000 things. Like I talk to a lot of my friends and family, and I'm telling them like the new thing that I'm doing, or a new project that I'm working on, or I'm launching this or that. And they're like, how the heck are you doing this? First of all, you just as one person, because it sounds like you're like 5 people at the same time. but that's the thing, and that's that, like you're talking about, Hernan. It's the drive that I have, and the determination that, you know what, I'm not going to just sit around and look for handouts. I'm going to make something of myself and do it to the best of my ability. And again, just look at the results.
So new doors opened up for you. So you got back into the athletic space. You competed. You ended up doing well. I want to know a little bit about that. And then how did that lead to even doing public speaking?
Okay, so like I said, I didn't really get into judo or jiu-jitsu until a few years after I graduated. So I started to train in judo in October 2012. And I was determined to get on the US national team because it was a Paralympic sport. And I trained up in San Marcos at this one gym. It's San Diego Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy with my first professor and sensei, Paulo Fernando. And this is the crazy thing. I was looking for gyms around my area, but I got turned down when I told him. I said, hey, I'm looking to train judo. And one school said, oh, well, you're blind. You should probably look at this place up here in San Marcos. And let me kind of give you an idea of the length of time or the time traveled. So where I live, from Poway to San Marcos, it's about a 30, maybe 28 to 30-minute drive if I was in a car and I could just drive myself there. But as a blind individual, I had to use public transportation. And in San Diego, I'm not saying much, but public transportation, it's crap,
Yeah, it is.
So I literally had to get on a bus, do a few transfers, walk about 8 city blocks, and one way it took me 2.5 hours to get there. And then I would suit up, I would train for about an hour and a half, and then get back on the bus and the train and everything, do the transfers, another 2.5 hours. So right there,
full-time job.
Right. That's like, what, 6.5 hours total of my life every day. And I fell in love with it. But I fell in love with judo and jiu-jitsu, and I just wanted to train and keep training. So that was one of the drivers that led me to being able to compete. And I actually did my first jiu-jitsu tournament. It was in 2013, I remember, and I took second place, and I actually got choked out in the finals and I passed out, which that's a whole nother story. But I loved it. I got this exhilarating drive, this adrenaline pump, like, whoa, this is exactly what I was looking for.
You got the runner's high, you got that competitive edge. Heck yeah,
right.
You were ready to rock and roll again. Exactly what you were missing in your life.
That was what I was missing in my life. Exactly. Like that fire just all of a sudden flamed up in my body, and I was thinking to myself, this is exactly what I need, because I need to be physically and mentally pushed. And I found it in jiu-jitsu and judo. So the funny thing is so I originally went in for judo, but I was actually talking to one of my buddies that I still train with to this day. He was 18 years old at the time, and he says, hey man, you're gonna love jiu-jitsu. I already know you're gonna love jiu-jitsu. And I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So that first tournament that I did, it was a jiu-jitsu tournament. And after that, I said, I need to train more, because I know I can get a gold medal. I know I can. And I just trained and did my next tournament was the Pan American Games in Irvine, 2013. And I think they still have actually a couple of my matches on YouTube, which
does your competition even know that you're blind when you come up to the mat, or
really? I come out, and they're like, why has this guy got his eyes closed and stuff? And because the competitors, okay, for your audience, so I'm a blind athlete. In jiu-jitsu, the competitors that I'm competing against, they're all sighted, able-bodied athletes. So they can see, there's nothing wrong with them, yet I'm still competing against them. And I'm kicking their asses.
Let's make that clear.
but no, I think in the beginning they didn't, but as the years pass, and I've been competing ever since. You compete with the same guys. You see a lot of the same guys that stay competing, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's
your notoriety, like people start to know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember being in high school, same type of thing where that this high school has a girl playing on the team, and you're kind of looking out for this, one athlete that is on the field, and you can't really tell, but that it's around. And I feel like that's how it becomes with you until you start dominating. Then they're like, oh, that's that guy.
They're watching. Exactly. They're watching. And then another thing too is a lot of the videos that were online, they would tell that I was a judo player or, a stand-up guy. So I would always go for takedowns. So now people are starting to study the game. They're trying to get an edge because let's face it, nobody wants to get beat by a blind guy, right?
No, of course not. Yeah. We're going to come up with a strategy here. How can we use our sight to our advantage, right?
Right. So now I'm training to be down by a takedown, and then things start to change, and you got to adapt to different things. And now that I'm at a higher level, I'm a brown belt right now. That's the belt right before black belt. So now we really have to train strategically to really, really capitalize, on my opponents and these tournaments. So let's flip it to judo now. So the thing though is, let me kind of clarify the difference, because there's some overlap. So with judo, it's standing up, and it's a lot of explosive movements with a lot of throws like hip tosses and trips. And to win a judo match, it's called a ippon, right? Where if you throw your opponent straight on their back, that's 1 point. The match is over. If you throw them on their side, it's a half a point. 2 half points make a point. The match is over, and then it gets into a lot of the technicalities of penalties and then like the point system. So that's judo, okay? Whereas jiu-jitsu is more of a grappling art on the ground, and you're on the ground grappling with your opponent, and you can get in different submissions with arm locks or leg locks, foot locks, or even chokes. And if somebody taps, that's a submission, the match is over. And then you also have a point system and a penalty system at the end of the match. If nobody submits, then they go to points. So that's the difference between judo and jiu-jitsu. So in my judo career, I started it a little bit later because, like I told you, I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu, and I just wanted to do a tournament every month. And I literally just kept on training, and then I'd win a tournament, and I'd win another tournament, and I'm like, wow, this is great, and just kept on training. And then I was actually called by the USA visually impaired judo team, the coordinator, and they wanted me to come out for a camp out in Colorado, because the Olympic Training Center is out there, and they hold camps out there just to see what talent's out there. So they'll literally fly out a bunch of different athletes all around the nation, and then we'll all meet up in Colorado and just have a camp. And I did really, really well in my first camp, and I thought to myself, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. And to get on the national team, you have to place and rank top 2 in the nation through points in different tournaments that you're doing. So I actually did really well. I took second in my first tournament, got on the US roster, and then before you knew it, it was Um, it was, can you guys hear that?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Hold on. Can I get off real quick? Or is that, hold
I
on.
don't know.
Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry. 1 second.
Yeah, so I mean, James, this story is pretty good so far. I mean, coming over that kind of
It's
adversity
amazing.
and becoming, you know, a national athlete and dealing with just like that kind of stressful life and yet still competing.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Amazing.
It's
Improv.
yeah, it's improv, but that's okay. I mean, that's what we got to do.
Right. So back to what I was saying. So I got ranked. I got on the U.S. roster, and then now I'm on the national team, and I was able to travel with the team and compete internationally. I was part of the IPSA World Cup that was in Hungary. Then I did the World Games in Seoul, Korea, and then I was also part of the 2015 the Pan American Game team in Toronto. And it was honestly it was a fun time, but the wear and tear, I really got to give it to the judokas, the judo players out there. They are tough. They're super tough. The training's just wear and tear on your body, but I had a great time working out there. And
So
all of
you excel as a national athlete. You've kind of brought that spark back into your life. You're fueled by competition and you're winning, right? And
right.
do you just like exit that and transition into like motivational speaking, or like
That's
how?
exactly it. That's exactly it. So honestly, I never would have thought that I'd ever do public speaking, let alone motivational speaking. And I was introduced to this guy, Jason Mills, through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And he heard my story and he asked me, he said, "Hey, I would love for you to speak to my students." And it's just I think it's a world international club, but there's clubs in middle schools and high schools and colleges. So I said, I'll give it a shot. So I actually spoke at a local high school and just shared my story. And I mean, honestly, it was the most, I guess, rewarding thing for me, to be able to share my story and inspire and motivate others to keep going and not to give up, regardless of your situation or your circumstance. And before you knew it, I got another speech and another one, and someone asked me to do this and that, and it just snowballed into this, into kind of a business. And I honestly would have never imagined that I would ever get paid to speak, but it's crazy. People are actually booking me to speak, and I mean, it's
Well,
priceless.
yeah,
Right?
I can easily understand why. I mean, the story itself, people are always looking for that emotional connection that I can make with somebody. And the thing we fear most is to lose something. And we usually
Oh, totally.
associate that with losing things, right?
Right.
And at worst, we lose someone we love or we care
Right.
about,
Right.
right? And to have to go through something like that, we all can relate to that feeling of being lost, of not having that thing that we once had. And so your story it really, dives deep into that emotion, into that struggle that, I had it all and I lost it all.
Yeah.
I not only lost it all, but I had to start over, where most of you just continue, get to keep going. Your start over was completely different from my start over. My start over was like, infancy start over. I had to do everything from brand new. And you've not only taken that struggle, but you've used it as fuel to push you forward. And it's like, look at me now. Like I'm standing here. Dude,
Right. Exactly.
I
Right.
mean, pun intended. Look at me now. Right. I mean, I'm standing here sharing with you what I've done. Look at my accomplishments. And you do it in a way I'm not bragging I'm the best at this. You're
Right.
saying, if I can do it, if I have overcome all these adversities, if I had all these issues, if I continue to have these struggles, and yet I can still do this, then it puts in perspective what you're going through.
No,
Right?
totally. I totally agree with you. I mean, that's to say, I mean, I'm not like the best of the best, you know what I mean? I work hard to get there. And it doesn't matter what you're going through, as far as if it's on an athletic side and you're trying to be a world champion or something, or you're trying to be the best business owner, you have to put in work. I mean, I heard a lot of people saying it's discipline. It's a lot of hard work, and it's true. Everybody has the potential to be the best, but are you going to put in the work for it? Are you
Yeah.
going to get up in the morning, out of bed, and not hit your snooze button and get after it? Are you going to do that? And that's what really separates the people that are just living in mediocrity to living exceptionally. And you hear that a lot. You hear that a lot in motivational things. You hear that a lot in these masterminds. And that's the thing, is I was blessed enough to be able to identify it and then use it as fuel to become the person I am today. And I totally agree with you. A lot of people, they're afraid to lose things, whether it's materialistic, whether it's a relationship, like a loved one, whether it's your bank account, there's all these different aspects of losing things, but people are just so they're so blinded by it. No pun intended. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, man, your story is super inspirational. I'm moved by it. To me, it's always a perspective thing. I always, anytime my wife leaves the house, I'm always thinking, man, this could be the last time I ever see her. And it makes me appreciate those moments that we have. Same thing with my kids. They go, my parents take them out, or they go somewhere, anything. The coronavirus is out, and I worry about, them potentially getting sick. Like at any point, something can happen. So, hearing a story like yours is always gives me that additional perspective of, when I don't feel like getting up in the morning, at least I can get up. And I don't feel like opening my eyes. Well, at least when I open my eyes, I'm going to see something. Like it gives me that perspective. And I hope that for our listeners and people who listen to you speak, and the people who see you compete, they can all feel that same thing. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of, I hope that's the message that we're putting out here today.
Yeah,
I want to say thank you for coming on the program and sharing it with us.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that is mainly the mission and vision that I have, is to be able to help someone that may be going through the same pain that I went through, and letting them know that, hey, it's going to be okay. You have to trust the process and just be patient.
Lastly, I want to make sure that you get an opportunity to tell people how they can get some more information on your corporations, your entities, about, maybe public speaking or booking you for events.
So the one company that I launched a startup with two partners, the Haabu Incorporated, Haabu Incorporated. You can find us on Facebook at Haabu Inc. and then also on Instagram at Haabu Inc. And it's an herbal supplement business, and we have different products that help out with pain management, and it's all natural, organic, made. And it's actually manufactured and distributed out here from San Diego. It's a San Diego-based company, which is awesome.
Nice.
And then with Matavation, you can reach me on either my Facebook page, which is just my name, Jeff Gordon Mata, and on Instagram, it's at Mata, MATA.Vation, VATION. And I am working closely with a More Blend. It's a speaking group, and you can find that as well. And I believe that if you are truly trying to get my message across, I'm definitely open and entertaining any possibilities and opportunities to speak at different venues. The thing that the thing that's kind of unfortunate right now with the whole COVID-19 coronavirus, a lot of my presentations have been postponed because of the mandates and stuff. But I'm currently working on a course right now that I'm going to launch online when it's ready, where I can be able to share my tips and tricks for what I do.
Perfect, man. Hey, again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your story, and just for your perseverance and continuing to do what you do, man. You're an inspiration, and thank you very much.
Hernan, James, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gents, that's all we got for you guys today. Peace, and we're out.
Bye-bye.